I don't know, this is complicated. Wait, let's restart. Let's maybe if I just take the lid off, maybe it makes sense. Shh, 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 shh. No one's gonna hurt you. Is this like Final Girl ASMR? Because I'm a fan. This is that joke, is it not? Ciao, my name is Alessandro, but you can call me Yuchi, and today, for all Final Girl fans out there, I don't know if you care about this, to be honest, but we're gonna be ranking all the Season 1 Final Girl feature boxes, talking about the killer, talking about the locations, ranking all of them, right? You know, because why not? Now, I know I'm late to the party, but I only have Season 1. What can I say? Okay, I don't have Season 2, I don't have Season 3. I wish I had them, but I don't. Plus, do you see my shelf? I live in a 24 square meters apartment. Where do I fit all the ultimate boxes and all the extra content and the playmat and everything? Like, I need to dedicate a storage room to Final Girl, you know? I can't. I can't. So we're talking about Season 1, because it's the good old classics after all, and honestly, like, you need a solid base to create a great narrative of Final Girl, and this is the strong base we need to analyze today. So I will be ranking the feature films overall. I was trying to rank the killers and the locations separately, but then the feature films would just align with that, and it just didn't make too much sense, just like most of the stuff that I think can do in life. But I will also be talking about what I liked about the killer, what I didn't like about the killer, what I liked about the locations, what I didn't like about the locations. And you can do with this information whatever you want. Like, you can trash it in a bin, or we can just chat in the comments and see if we're aligned with that or not, honestly. That's what YouTube is for, actually, is sharing opinions, right? Or knowledge, I suppose. Entertainment. This will be entertainment. I will be entertaining. You know what else I will be ranking? The intros to the Final Girl videos that I've made. Because I made 5. I played all the 5 feature films, and you can find the playlist with all those playthroughs showing right now at the top right corner of the screen. Of course. And I hope you're gonna have fun watching those, because I had fun recording them. You'll see, you'll see, you'll see. Is it a little bit self-referential? Yes, but you know, I'm very proud of those intros, so I feel like I want to advertise those because I'm proud of being embarrassing on the internet. Last thing before we start, you know the deal, we're on YouTube, so if you like this kind of content, feel free to leave a like to this video, subscribe to my channel for more content. I actually do serious stuff most of the time, so please just have faith in my content, and I would be immensely grateful if you decided to do so. Thank you, thank you, thank you, but now let's start talking about Final Girl, because all this rambling already is like too much mess, too much. So, at the bottom of the pyramid. So at the bottom of the pyramid, we will find this one, The Haunting of Critch Manor. I know this is one of a lot of people's favorite, but we don't need to get along, you know, we don't need to agree on that. Why is this at the bottom of my ranking? Let's face it, the fact that you cannot kill the poltergeist is extremely annoying. To win this feature film, you basically have to find Carolyn in one of the item decks and escape from the house. Because you can't kill the poltergeist. The poltergeist is gonna keep haunting the house. You just need to make sure that Carolyn is safe. Now, if you've seen my playthrough of this feature film on my channel, you might understand why I don't like it. But also, it is extremely frustrating and luck-based, because Carolyn might be in the first search you do, or it can be in the very last search you do after a million rounds of searching through the item decks. Am I complaining about something being luck-driven in a game where everything you do is rolling dice for successes? Yes, but at least the dice have some sort of mitigation. You cannot really mitigate where Carolyn is gonna end up in a deck. Okay, you can't, you simply can't. So this is how I see this feature film. You basically start ignoring the victims because the poltergeist is gonna kill all of them anyways, and you start focusing on digging through the decks. So you might find Carolyn, you might not find Carolyn, and that's basically all you do. Now, one thing I liked is that even though you cannot attack the poltergeist, you cannot ignore having attack cards in your hand, because there are some puppets or weird monsters that can come out of the terror deck that you can instantly attack with one attack card, and then they won't deal you damage. But if you don't have an attack card to counterattack them with, then they will deal you damage and bring your already low health to even lower. I may or may not have learned this from experience. But I feel like in this scenario, you kinda end up ignoring victims, and ignoring victims is a consequence of the location too, Creech Manor. Why? Because this location has only 3 exit spaces and they are all at the bottom of the house. Once you get to the bottom of the house, then getting back on top is gonna cost you so much movement. Resources, turns, time, it's just annoying. Unless you can climb up from the ladder. Now let's talk about the ladder. Have you ever watched the video or played the game where the ladder doesn't break? Now you need to be honest right now, okay? Because I have not seen any of those shenanigans. I have never seen anybody being able to climb up from the ladder. I just think it's impossible. That ladder, I just don't even consider it as a viable option because it's gonna break. The moment I think about saving victims and going out, the ladder is gonna break. One thing I will say though is that in season 3 apparently, I've watched a video briefly, but there is like the possibility for Carolyn to strike back, and she's gonna be able to deal some psychic damage, which is a different type of damage that works in a completely different way, and she can deal this psychic damage to any killer, even the poltergeist. Yes, finally a way to kill the poltergeist in some sort of normal, regular way, even though the psychic damage works in a completely different and super original way. So, you know, if I ever get that, maybe I'm gonna change my mind on the poltergeist. But for now, she's at the bottom. Now, let's talk about my intro for the poltergeist. Wasn't that embarrassing? Yeah. Also, if you look very closely, there are my super dark circles showing like crazy. But also, it was super fun because I thought like, I should be a ghost, right? I should be a ghost for my video because the poltergeist is a ghost. How can I be a ghost? How can I become transparent? Green screening myself. Isn't that great? Just showing my face. I don't know, I thought that was pretty fun, okay? I thought it was fun. It was fun clownery, okay? Great, thank you. Great that we all agree. So I think this intro is gonna be the second best intro I did for Final Girl. Do we agree? We'll see what's the best one. Might come up very soon. At position number 4 we find Carnival of Blood. I don't remember the names of these feature films. At position number 4 we find Carnage at the Carnival, which stars Geppetto in the Carnival of Horrors. Now let's talk about Geppetto a little bit, shall we? Geppetto is the first killer to actually introduce the minions, and I feel like that's amazing. Minions are fun also because you know who has minions in season 2? The Ratchet Lady. And do you know how fun is to go against the Ratchet Lady at the Wolf Asylum? Super fun. I didn't experience it, but I think those are some of my favorite kind of videos. I really love the Wolf Asylum and the Ratchet Lady. What I found annoying with Geppetto was that the rules for these puppets are a little bit annoying to resolve, honestly, because yes, it's super thematic that the puppets are attached to strings and therefore they cannot move too far from Geppetto, but then the rules to apply this is a little bit, I don't know, fuzzy, wonky in my mind. Like yes, they can move far from Geppetto, but not too far from Geppetto, because otherwise Geppetto would pull them backwards, but they can move far out, but like they can still attack if they're too far, but then go back, but then it kind of like if they're doing a flip in the air, they can shoot fireworks and become real boys. I'm joking, but really like it's a lot of steps that I don't understand. My brain cannot comprehend. It is thematic, but slightly unnecessary to have it so complicated. But I understand there was a lot of testing done and this was the most logical way to make them work, but it's not logical for my brain. What about the Carnival of Horrors then? Is it how it's called? It's called Carnival of Blood. What about the Carnival of Blood then? Now you need to understand one thing. I love horror stuff that is themed with like a clown or like circus, okay? That is my thing. I like it. So at some point when I was in school, I had to read a book in English because clearly I'm not English, I'm Italian. And they assigned us being like, choose a book that you want to read in English. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna be brave. I'm gonna buy my first ever horror book. And it was like, I think it's called Joyland by Stephen King, which is set in a circus. That's just how much I like the theme, okay? Now, if I ever read that book in the end, it's a different story. I might still be stuck at page 12. But then what is it that I didn't like about this location? Well, if you think about it, the search action can really break or make the game. Sometimes having the right item come up, like at the top of the deck, can change your whole strategy, can shift your strategy, because you want that flamethrower, you want that axe, and you want to go and collect it because you know that is going to increase the chances of you winning by a lot. But if you're unlucky, none of these powerful items is going to show on top, and you might have to dig for them if you really want to. Sometimes it can be a waste of time to dig for them, and that usually discourages me from going and searching from item decks that I don't even know if they're gonna contain something good. But you know what would discourage me even more if I don't have any good items from searching decks? Having traps inside the decks that are gonna hurt me in the end. And that's exactly what the Carnival of Blood does. So if you don't get lucky with the items that come up at the beginning of the game, you're really doubling down on the being unlucky, because what if you go and look for items and then just end up getting a trap and not even getting a good item, right? So that's just something that I don't know if it works for me, but you know what I like about this scenario? The golf cart. Beep beep. You just go around the perimeter. You just go around on the edges of the carnival, and it's just like saving victims just like that. Vroom, vroom, vroom. It's amazing. I love the golf cart. And my dear friends, if we are friends, I don't know if you consider me your friend, probably not. But this is my best intro ever. Like having some strings attached to my body and having like some plushies that I borrowed kindly from my friends to simulate the puppets. That's just genius idea. Who would have thought about that great idea? I even had a jacket to simulate like Geppetto's outfit. I didn't have that kind of hat that Geppetto has. But I really hope you agree with me that that was a great idea, because I do think so. At position number 4, we're gonna find the vignette, Terror from Above. I think Terror from Above is a great addition to the first season of Final Girl. First of all, I love that it's inspired by a movie that was kind of original, right? The Birds by Hitchcock, which I haven't watched the movie to be honest, but I think like having a horror movie based on birds attacking from the sky is pretty original. Let's be honest. It is also fun to have a win condition that is different from killing the killer, just like we have in the Poltergeist, but it's definitely less luck based than the Poltergeist, because you just need to save the most victims you can from these birds that you basically can't get rid of. It's insane. They're gonna keep spawning and spawning, which is also pretty thematic. And then once you save the reasonable amount of victims, you're gonna spawn some special victims which are gonna be your target. Save those special victims, they're gonna be the winner. Again, you need to abandon the site because the birds are just unstoppable. Another thing I really like about this vignette is that there is a compromise here to be made, because you wanna go around with the victims and roam around with the victims. But there's one thing that you need to keep in mind. The victims cannot be damaged by 1 or 2 birds, they can only be damaged by a swarm of 3 birds. But if you are with the victims, then the birds are gonna be attacking those victims. So you really need to make sure that when you're carrying victims around the board, you don't end up being in the same space as the birds. Also because you need victims to win. So you really want to save those victims, not just because of the bloodlust, but really because they are your win condition. Unfortunately, I didn't really have an intro for this video because I did it on live. It was my first ever live stream and I had a lot of fun doing it. So I was super happy to have had this as my first live ever, and it was my birthday. So I did this for my birthday live stream. I had a lot of fun. It's just a little bit annoying to set up the live streams, but I was happy that someone showed up and you could actually chat with people. It was amazing. It was amazing. I want to do it again. I want to do more live streams. At position number 3, we find the classic The Happy Trails Horror, starring Hans the Butcher at Camp Happy Trails. I mean, there isn't much to talk about these Hans and Camp Happy Trails, right? They're pretty basic, because they're introducing you to the game. Now, there is one thing that bugs me about Hans, and it is that he keeps increasing horror the whole time, and there is one thing that I love doing in this game, which is keeping the horror at bay. Also the birds do that, also the poltergeists do that, but I notice it a little bit less than with Hans, because Hans is really like, what are you doing? You should be attacking and not increasing my horror, okay? But our pig face is just like a great first killer to have in the game, honestly, and I have to give him the 3rd spot, the bronze medal, because this was probably the killer that made a lot of us fall in love with this game. Our very first entry ticket to Final Girl that eased us into a very incredible game. Same can be said about Camp Happy Trails. There isn't much to say about that, except one thing. Is there a more perfect location for a horror movie than a holiday camp with kids swimming in the lake, family picnics, and couples kissing in the forest? I don't think so. I don't think so. The intro I made for this video was pretty basic because I didn't think I was gonna be making weird intros for every single Final Girl video after this one. So I just wanted to give you like an introduction to Final Girl with a funny intro. Again, just like this whole feature film. It's basic, but it's the start of something, you know? So this intro is gonna go at position number 4 for me. At position number 2, we're gonna find Slaughter in the Groves, starring Inca Nyamba at the Sacred Groves. What can I say? I just loved Inky, my beloved Inky. I just love him, or her, or them, so much. To be honest, there is no specific reason why I like it. I just like it, you know, sometimes you just vibe with something. Inca Nyamba doesn't really add too much, it's a pretty vanilla killer, if you think about it, but it's gonna add just a little twist, that small little twist that is gonna make the game more interesting, and that is the Killer Wrath. The Killer Wrath is basically a board that you need to keep track of because the killer might unleash the Killer Wrath at any time and do some very negative effects. So if you don't keep it at bay, that's gonna unleash and do very big damage to your game, and you don't want that to happen. How do you prevent that? With a special card called Atonement that is gonna allow you to reduce that Killer Wrath. So it's interesting that there is some study to be done about what will be the perfect timing for you to actually buy and use the Atonement card. Because they're expensive and hard to use, but if you time it just right, they're gonna really improve your chances of winning. But really, more than Inca Nyamba, the fun part here are the Sacred Groves. Just like Inca Nyamba has its Killer Wrath, then the Sacred Groves are gonna have their Divine Wrath that works in a fairly similar way. So now, if you're playing with Inca Nyamba at the Sacred Groves, not only you have to think about the Killer Wrath, but also of the Divine Wrath, and really be managing both of these tracks and make sure that they don't get out of control and they don't come and bite you in the back. But this is not all, because you also want to deal with victims in a better way, because the victims at the sacred spots are gonna anger the Sacred Grove's Divine Wrath. So you really want to make sure that you take out victims from the sacred spots, because otherwise the Divine Wrath is just gonna get out of control, skyrocket, and cause a lot of trouble. On top of that, you really don't want to be getting down to the finale when you're playing the Sacred Groves, because in that case, the Divine Wrath is gonna increase every single turn and unleash every single turn. It is not that often that a Divine Wrath or a Killer Wrath unleashes, but when it does, trust me, you don't want to be there. And if during the finale it unleashes every single turn, every single killer phase, that's really gonna create a brutal finale for you, and not a good one to be experienced. But I kinda get Inky's and the Sacred Grove's Divine's Wrath just climbing up and getting worse and worse. Wouldn't you be annoyed at noisy tourists just like roaming around and being disrespectful in your sacred sites? Think about that. Think about that. Well, I need to talk about the intro for this video, right? Well, I didn't make one. I didn't have ideas for this one. So this is gonna go at the bottom. I didn't have ideas. So there's no intro for this video. Now, before finding out what is my favorite feature film of a Final Girl, I mean, if you have played Final Girl Season 1 and you do the math, you know, exclusion, you should know. So it's not really a cliffhanger, this one, is it? But let me just take this opportunity to remind you that if you like this video, you can leave a like, subscribe to my channel, and I would be immensely grateful if you did that. Thank you. Now, if you've watched the entire video, you already know that my feature film from Season 1 Final Girl is Frightmare on Maple Lane, starring Dr. Fright at Maple Lane, obviously. Now, I love everything about Dr. Fright because everything is just so thematic. He can't attack you while you're awake. He haunts you in your dreams. And when is it that you dream? When you're sleeping. And when is it that you're going to sleep? Well, obviously, when you're trying to get back some energy and rest. Doesn't all of this just make a lot of sense to you? It does, it does. Plus, the boiler room is just so fun, like, you can't deny that. The fact that you're having some sort of dream while you're asleep, a lucid dream, where Dr. Fry might just pop up and scare you and attack you in your dreams, it's just great, it's just fun. No, but really, the mechanic of sliding these cards, even though it is extremely annoying, I need to acknowledge that it is extremely annoying to be able to actually slide cards without showing all the other cards, but it is fun, it is different, and it adds just that little tiny bit of very simple deduction to this game, a very thin layer of deduction that just makes it fun. With a little bit of luck, because of course you need to sprinkle a little bit of luck. It's still Final Girl after all. The location is definitely a little bit less exciting, Maple Lane, than the actual killer, but it still adds a couple of twists that to me are very interesting. The first thing being like, you're in a residential area, you can't just barge into some stranger's house uninvited. You need to ask for permission, and how do you do that? With a special card. So you really can't get into any of the house spaces, which are also your search spaces, without using a convince card if there are victims there. If there are no victims, no one's gonna see that you're just barging in. No one's gonna, no one to convince. No one to convince. Shh. It is also cool that the area is divided in quadrants and each quadrant corresponds to one search deck. I think that's kind of fun. But also more fun is that you have 4 item decks, which is insanely useful because you might actually look at which items are available a little bit better. Especially when searching becomes a little bit harder, just like in this case, they're gonna incentivize you to search because you're gonna see more items that you might be interested in. That's the kind of balance I like. Searching made more complex, but also incentivized because you're seeing more items available. And will I not talk about the police patrolling and the bicycle? Do you think I would be that naive? I mean, it all just makes sense. The police is just going back and forth patrolling, checking that everybody's safe, and if they see someone in the streets lost, they're just gonna bring them out to safety. So the police is an event, and the bicycle is an item, so you might never see those. But I find them super thematic on Maple Lane, so I really enjoy the fact that they exist, you know? And the bicycle is just a bicycle. Why wouldn't you love a bicycle to roam around? Even though I would have preferred a tricycle. I don't know, just the idea of like the final girl with her knives and rifle just going on a small kid's tricycle. It just makes sense. It just makes sense. It's in the spirit of Final Girl, being like scary, but funny. Well, this is just a voiceover of me talking about my intro for Dr. Fright and Frightmare on Maple Lane. I just pretended to be asleep and be attacked in my sleep by Dr. Fright. Isn't that fun? I just forgot to talk about this. So this is just my 3rd favorite intro and anyways, this was all I had to share about Final Girl Season 1. I know this is a little bit of a stupid video, but you know, not all videos need to be serious, you know. I hope you liked it. Let me know your thoughts about your ranking of Final Girl Season 1, and if you agree or not, and I don't know, whatever comes to your mind, just write it. I'm gonna reply. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're gonna decide to check out all my playthroughs of Final Girl. You can also find them at the description below. And I hope to see you in other videos. Thank you very much. Ciao, ciao!